I think teaching children or letting children learn on their own, it's not that we teach them and say, here's what you learn, that's not effective. But letting children learn on their own and giving them the space and the encouragement to learn on their own is one of the most valuable things that we can do in this community. We should be doing things that help children be open-minded. We should do things that help children see the world in a bigger picture. All these things will help. Open-minded in the sense that you can talk about their dreams. Children have dreams, and mostly they don't talk about them much because it's just a dream, it's just junk, it's what they get back from parents. But you can talk about dreams and what's going on in them and tell them, well, a dream is just like being there instead of like being here. And we have choices to make here, we have choices to make there. And it's important that we make good choices. So, and have them talk to you about their dreams, things like that. You can tell them. And now they get somebody who gives value to dreams. And now they will maybe pay more attention to their dreams and think about the things. And, you can tell them, we can learn from dreams. Sometimes we practice in dreams what we're going to have to do here. Has that ever happened to you? These sorts of things, I think, are there has to be on a child's level that we can do. So helping them be open-minded about things and also about imagination. Be open about it because they learn from their culture and their parents that imagination's trash just like dreams. And they should learn that imagination is a powerful place that we can go to explore things, to look at things that otherwise we wouldn't see. And not only is it okay to have an imaginary friend, but it's okay to imagine where it is you'd like to go, what it is you'd like to be. What would you like to be? How would you like to be? Imagine that. And the more you imagine it, the more likely it is you'll become it. So you can use your imagination to help you become what you want to be. Whether you want to be a fireman or a race car driver or a ballerina or whatever, you can use your imagination to help be that. You see, little things like that the kids will find fun, but it enables them. Now they'd have dreams and imagination as tools, as interesting things in their life rather than throwaway junk. So that would be a thing. And if they say, well, I talked my dreams about my parents, and they say, it's just a dream, forget about it. You can say, well, sometimes parents don't know everything. Sometimes they also need to learn things. And that's a fact. And that's good for them to understand that too. That parents are people just like they're people. And they don't know everything either. I'd say you talk to children about bigger pictures. They tend to see themselves in little pictures. They see themselves, their family, their community, and mostly it's themselves. Then next it's it's the family and so on. And to see how this whole set of things, yourself, family, outside the family, neighborhood, town, how all of that matters. How all of that stuff out there in that town supports them in certain ways. Well, when they have a birthday, they go out to where the bouncy toys are, or the trampolines are, or they do something like that for their birthday party. Isn't it nice that somebody had a business full of trampolines and bouncy toys for them? Why did they do that? That's part of a community. Well, they did it for children like them. So children like them would have a place to jump. And now they see that there's other people out there doing things that affect them. And that's maybe small, but it gives them a bigger picture about reality and the world that they're in, that they're a part of something larger than just them and just their family, that there's a community out there that's also part of their existence. And they all have their own existence. So if just thinking bigger thoughts a little bit, that, the guy that has the business with the bouncy toys also has children and a wife and a family and a dog. And it maybe never occurred to them about other families existing. It depends the level that you are with children. So it's just to help them see a bigger picture, that they are one of a larger set of individuals that interact. And then you can give them things like, wouldn't it be nice if all of us that interact together were nice to each other? We're helpful to each other. Wouldn't that be a good thing? And they'll see that. You see, so it's just simple things like that that's part of their life, I think, is how you deal with children. They begin to see that being nice is good because you're part of a community and you interact with people. And interacting with people nicely, which we call manners, and are important. Not just because mom and dad say you need to say, please and thank you, and that's just a rule. Well, it's more than just a rule. It's what makes a lot of people be able to live with each other in close proximity in a city and have bouncy toys. So anyhow, that is a way I think if I were teaching children, I would try to help them see bigger pictures, see how much those bigger pictures require people to be nice to each other and do things for each other, and how it's good for everybody when that happens. So these are little things, but see, they're all MBT ideas, really. They're just brought down to the life of a child who only has a certain amount of perspective and a certain amount of information in there, and you got to work within the limits of that. And then, you can, I don't know, talk about, grandparents and growing older, and that you too will grow older, and you'll be a grandparent probably, and how you think you're going to be as a grandparent. How would you like to be as a grandparent? And you can just imagine that. You do a lot of imagination things with them. Imagine you being a grandparent. There's a little child just like you. What would you tell them? Just that gets them to think outside of their little box. That's their normal reality. Just anything that helps them think outside of their little box will expand their world and expand their viewpoint. So that would be the approach. But I think there's probably 100 different creative ways that you can do it. You can do it with art, you could do it with music, you could do it just with all kinds of things that would entertain the children as well as help them learn. And another thing is you can play, games with them that help them develop critical thinking. So they don't just take whatever you say and memorize it. That's not it that they think. I used to play games like that with my children. We'd play hide and seek, and I'd go hide someplace, and they'd have trouble. So they'd say, "Dad, where are you?" And I'd say, "I'm under the refrigerator." And they'd all run real fast out to the kitchen to look under the refrigerator. And eventually, they realized that wasn't very smart, running out to look under the refrigerator. He's not under the refrigerator. He just said that, you see. So they knew I was then having fun with them. But in the beginning, if I would say that, that's where they looked. They had no critical assessment skills at all. They just believe whatever you say. But this was a game, so it's all right to have fun that way in the game. And then I'd tell them afterwards, I'd say, why did you go look under that refrigerator? You know I could fit under that refrigerator. Look, I'm this tall and it's only that big. And, and they'd laugh and say, yeah. And I said, well, why'd you run out there and look? And they'd go like, I don't know. But it makes them think, as long as it's fun and it's light and everybody's having fun, you can play games in such that make them think about things. There's a simple one. You just fill a jar, and you fill a jar with rocks, bigger rocks, that size rocks. You fill a game with rocks, and you say, is the jar full? And they'll say, yeah, the jar's full. And you can say, well, is it? And you can pour in some little rocks, and they'll trickle down to the bottom. Oh, is it full yet? Yeah, now it's full. And you put some sand in, and it trickles down in the bottom too. Is it full yet? Yeah, now it's full. And you pour some water in, and it trickles down. And then that just gives them a sense of not only volume, but it gives them the sense that words can mean different things. Saying that something's full, there has to be context with that. That doesn't just mean something. That's not a fact. It's just a context. It's a way of looking at it. If you look at it one way, it's full, but you look at it a different way, it's not. And you know what? Life is full of that context stuff. It depends on your attitude and the way you see things as to how things are. And then you have beliefs. Well, I believe it's full. Who believes it's full? Well, I believe it's full. You see, but we can believe things that aren't true because of our perspective. Now they learn about perspective and how perspective actually changes how things are. So it's just little stuff like that I think would be fun. Now that last one would probably be good for 6 or 8 year olds or 10-year-olds, and probably not so good for 3-year-olds. They probably wouldn't appreciate that. So it just depends on the kids. But move toward caring and sharing and being nice, because that's the lubricant. That's the social lubricant. That's what makes us all be able to live together and interact with each other nicely. So that's why it's important. And then bigger pictures, and things aren't always the way they seem. That makes them think more independently rather than just memorize and do. And if you can get them just to open their minds a point where they're independent little thinkers who kind of consider, but they realize when they consider things that the conclusion they come to may or may not be right. They need to come to those conclusions with some skepticism, because there's always another way of looking at it, that it comes out differently. That will then get them to think more deeply about things. And if you can encourage them to do that, by the time they're 12 years old, they'll be much, much different than they would have been otherwise. They'll have a much larger capacity to understand all sorts of things than they would otherwise. I think it's very important to do those kinds of things. We need to encourage them to be themselves, to be authentic, not to live in an image, but to be authentic and have fun and make learning fun, not something to do. It's not about behavior so much as it is the intent behind the behavior. And that'd be a little discussion you could have with maybe 8-year-olds. There's a difference between behavior and intent behind a behavior. And why do we behave certain ways? Is it because people make us? Or that's what we're told? That's what's required? But who are we, really? Why do we choose to do the things we choose? And have them think about that.